My name is Samuel Pike. I'm 23 years old. I was born fused to another human being, my twin brother Ian. For 18 years, we shared everything: skin, blood, a spine, and a secret war no one else could see. This is the story of how I was finally separated from him.
Sam Pike was no ordinary child. He was born fused to another, two lives bound in one fragile body. For 18 years, that bond brought only torment, while the world ignored his cries and dismissed his pain.
My body faced forward, and Ian's tilted slightly, like an angry shadow attached to my neck.
The surgery that promised freedom delivered death instead, leaving Sam alive but abandoned, his case buried in silence. Was his survival a miracle or a curse medicine refuses to confront?
A rare and gripping inside look at one of the riskiest and most emotionally fraught surgical procedures imaginable, separating conjoined twins.
Join us as we uncover the hidden life of the boy, freed only through loss. Two sides of a coin. When Sam Pike's mother went into labor, trouble began almost immediately. Hours passed before anyone realized that something was wrong with her. One doctor became two, and soon a priest quietly entered the room. When Sam was born, he did not cry or make a single sound. Neither did Ian, his twin brother, lie silently against him. Their stillness marked the strange and shocking arrival of two conjoined baby boys. A photo taken after birth stunned everyone who saw it. Two heads rested on one small, fragile torso, tightly fused. Their necks were joined by thick, pale skin and strong muscles. Sam's face looked unusually flat and ghostly for a newborn infant. Ian's face seemed tense, already frowning, as if he feared something unknown. Their umbilical cord coiled around tiny arms like a silent, slithering snake. Doctors explained that the twins shared not only the base of their necks and muscles, but also a small section of fused spinal tissue. Their windpipes ran so close together that they were barely separate. They partially shared an esophagus, making every swallow a careful and delicate act. The doctors doubted the twins would survive even a single month, but they were utterly wrong. As babies, the twins barely fit into their crib. Sam leaned forward, alert, watching the world with wide eyes. Ian leaned like a shadow, pressing against him constantly. Ian grew faster, heavier, and stronger than Sam, almost from the start. To make matters worse, Ian was mischievous, intentionally jerking their shared body to disorient Sam. Then he laughed whenever he succeeded, taking cruel pleasure in his brother's helpless cries. Their mother tried her hardest to give both of them love and care. She sang softly at night and held them as gently as possible. Yet, from a mile away, anyone could see she was utterly exhausted. Their father remained distant, often absent, lost in work and drink. Sam remembered his father's boots more clearly than his face, maybe even despising them. No one could blame him for feeling that way. By the age of 4, Sam had begun forming small words and sentences. Ian, however, only grunted, growled, or twisted words cruelly to mock Sam. He enjoyed breaking Sam's attempts at speech, making them sound weak and incomplete. Over time, Ian became increasingly vicious. The first time he attacked Sam violently, he bit his shoulder, leaving a large purple bruise. When their mother asked, Sam told the truth, hoping she would punish Ian. But she did not believe him, dismissing his pain as imagination, even though the bruise was visible. That was when Sam first realized he was utterly, painfully, and unbearably alone. The outcasts. The twins' first trip outside felt chaotic and frightening in every way. Their mother took them to a small grocery store, hoping for a regular outing. As soon as they entered, a crowd formed around them, curious and judgmental. She pushed a stroller meant for one child, barely managing to fit them both inside. People stared, whispered, and pointed, as if the boys were monsters. Children even screamed at the sight of them. Their mother ignored the crowd and moved quickly toward the checkout line. The twins, though toddlers, already sensed they were not normal and deeply understood their difference. Around the age of 5, Ian began speaking clearly for the first time. His first words came in the middle of the night while Sam tried to sleep. "I wish you would stop breathing right now," he said coldly. The verbal attacks continued relentlessly, and when Sam reported them to their mother, who was lost in her world, she dismissed him. Sam learned to cry silently, keeping his mouth closed and his eyes wide open. Doctors treated the twins like test subjects, arriving at their home almost every week. They poked, scanned, and measured the boys as if they were invisible. Sometimes they discussed the possibility of separating the twins surgically. One doctor even drew a sharp line across Ian's small, tense back, without flinching, ignoring Ian's screams until he fainted, collapsing heavily onto Sam. The immediate weight crushed Sam so much that he feared it might be the end of everything. After that day, no one ever mentioned separation again. Their mother, knowing separation could seriously harm them, resolved to raise them as they were. One of her first goals was to integrate them into society. At age 6, she tried sending them to school, but it ended in disaster. Children screamed, and a teacher fainted at the sight of the twins. That same day, Ian got into a fight when another child insulted them and threw a book. Ian bit the boy so severely that blood began to spill. The following day, a parent petitioned the school to remove the twins. By the end of the first week, the boys were expelled. Home became their only place of learning, with their mother acting as a full-time teacher. She tried flashcards, worksheets, and documentaries on an old television, but rebellious Ian refused everything. He tore worksheets, mocked Sam's quiet attempts, and even urinated on the floor, leaving their mother crying helplessly. Sam could only watch silently, his tears falling as he witnessed her agony. By age 8, Ian began experimenting with Sam's pain in more cruel ways. He pressed nails into Sam's sore spots, learning exactly how to make him gag. Ian enjoyed the feeling of control, knowing he could ruin Sam's day at will. One day, Sam finally snapped and slapped Ian for the first time. What followed was something he never expected. That night, a furious Ian brutally headbutted Sam, breaking his nose. Both boys bled, but while Sam cried, Ian smiled, savoring his revenge. When their mother heard the cries, she rushed into the room. Seeing Sam's injury, she immediately tried to get her husband to take them to the hospital. He was already wasted from drinking, so she called a neighbor instead, who rushed them to the hospital. At the hospital, when doctors asked what happened, young Sam, too naive to blame anyone, lied to protect his mother. He said he had fallen and hurt his nose while Ian stayed silent. As time went on, it was not only Sam who lied to cover for Ian. Once, the twins appeared on local news, called the Miracle Twins. Footage showed them reading quietly together on a small couch. Editors carefully cut out every moment where Ian swore, kicked, or mocked Sam. Letters arrived afterward, some kind, but most cruel and hateful. One called them abominations. Another suggested they should be put down. Their mother cried for 3 straight days while Ian watched, laughing at her grief like it was a game. Sam did not know what everyday life felt like, He imagined it constantly, walking into a room alone, showering without ridicule, sitting quietly by himself, sleeping without another head pressing into his neck. Fragile dreams, but they were the only escape he had. By the age of 10, Sam stopped speaking to Ian altogether, even as Ian tried to provoke him with slaps, scratches, and pinches. Sam did not flinch once. He just pretended Ian did not exist. Eventually, Ian began crying, screaming, and begging for attention. But Sam ignored him entirely. For 2 weeks, he became a ghost inside their shared body. One morning, Sam woke to find a pillow pressed firmly against his face. He thrashed violently, and their mother rushed in to remove him. Ian pretended to sleep, showing no remorse at all. Sam stopped trusting anyone entirely, and at just a decade old, he wished he had never been born at all. By the time puberty arrived, it came unevenly and painfully for both. Sam's voice deepened slowly, while Ian's broke abruptly and unpredictably. Sam also began growing chest hair, which Ian mocked relentlessly without mercy. Their muscles developed at different rates, creating constant imbalance and strain. Whenever Sam tried to walk straight, Ian never missed a chance to pull him sideways, leaving Sam's back aching relentlessly. Doctors prescribed a brace to support him, but Ian smashed it the very first night, ruining any relief it might have brought. Around this period, their mother finally realized she could no longer handle the boys on her own. She accepted that they needed professional help and sought out a specialist immediately. Psycho Wars. The new social worker, Miss Tyler, was gentle and always tried to help. But Ian hated her instantly, calling her nosy and perverse. She tried speaking to them separately, but privacy never existed between the boys. Ian sometimes even pretended he could read Sam's thoughts. Frustrated, Miss Tyler suggested to their mother that they consider separation surgery again, claiming medical progress might have improved their chances. Their mother reluctantly agreed to hear more. When the twins overheard, Ian spat directly on the medical folder, declaring he would rather die than be separated. Sam's hands shook as he held the folder, but he said nothing. That night, he studied it quietly alone. Invitations for conferences, documentaries, and genetic studies soon followed. Their mother refused most, but accepted one that promised enough money to cover debts and eventually fund surgery. A film crew arrived to document the twins. At first, Ian behaved well, but on the second day, he shoved a cameraman down the stairs, breaking the man's wrist. The company had not agreed to cover damages, so they left immediately. No payment came afterward, and the chance of surgery collapsed. Life at home grew worse. Ian's actions pushed their mother deeper into despair. She barely left her room, stopped eating, and often spoke to herself in whispers. Sam began journaling secretly at night whenever Ian was asleep. But Ian eventually found the notebook and read every page. Inside, he saw Sam's hatred spelled out clearly. Sam had called him a cancer. In fury, Ian destroyed the journal completely. When Miss Tyler returned, some sense of structure briefly returned with her. She asked the boys if they felt safe, considering their father was always drunk or absent, and their mother was withdrawn. The boys said yes, but she did not believe them. With their mother's signed consent, she scheduled hospital visits. On the morning of the first visit, Ian locked them in the bathroom, refusing to go. Miss Tyler forced the door open and brought them anyway. During MRI scans, Sam wished the machine would split them apart, but it did not. Unlike what Miss Tyler had hoped, the results only made things worse. The twins' vascular systems were tangled and their nerves fused. Separation carried extreme risks: paralysis, brain damage, or even death. Their mother had already signed consent, and when doctors pressed her for a decision, she agreed to schedule surgery 3 months later. When the boys found out, Ian began acting strangely, trying to convince everyone he had changed. But Sam knew better. Ian still whispered in secret that the surgery would never happen. A week before the operation, Ian began screaming, accusing Sam of plotting to kill him. Nurses, unfamiliar with Ian's games, believed his panic, and the surgery was delayed until they both received psychological help. Sam felt the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slipping away because of Ian's lies. He lost all interest in life, stopped reading, and stopped eating. Ian mocked him, calling it a hunger strike. Sam grew weaker by the day, shoulder blades sharp, skin pale and loose. A young tutor came twice a week to teach, but Ian grabbed her hand once and kissed her wrist. She recoiled in disgust, and he laughed, calling it a joke. Sam stayed silent, watching everything fall apart. A new therapist, Dr. Glenn, was assigned to them. In her first session, she asked how they felt. Ian immediately insisted they were fine, but Sam said they were not. As the session continued, Ian grew restless until he finally snapped. For the first time, he admitted the truth. He told Dr. Glenn that sometimes he dreamed of tearing Sam off his side and burying him under tree roots. The confession shocked the room, but for Sam, it was oddly comforting to finally hear Ian say what he had always felt. As therapy continued, Ian developed a habit of scratching his skin until it bled. Sometimes he made patterns, random marks, always claiming the shared body as his own. Sam never stopped him. He had already surrendered all control. But then Sam decided to be as cruel as his brother. Knowing Ian was beginning to unravel mentally, he invented a lie. He whispered that he knew a secret about their mother and a hidden surgery plan, but refused to share details. Ian demanded answers daily, threatening and screaming, but Sam stayed silent. For the first time in years, Ian lost control completely. His eye twitched, he paced restlessly, and he began to starve himself with sleepless nights. Sam fed the lie slowly, adding small, believable details until Ian grew pale and restless. Ian stopped eating, watched the doors at night, and pressed Sam endlessly. Sam gave no answers, savoring the quiet power. The tension snapped when Ian destroyed their bedroom in fury. Posters ripped down, lamps smashed, mirrors shattered into shards. Sam stayed calm and silent, watching as if it were someone else's nightmare. Their mother screamed in horror, but Ian screamed louder, thrashing uncontrollably. Sam felt distant, as if none of it belonged to him. That night, their mother finally called a facility for observation and evaluation. Ian protested violently, while Sam smiled quietly to himself. At the facility, they were given separate journals. Sam wrote the truth this time: dates, threats, bruises, and quotes, all carefully documented. When the therapist read Sam's journal, she looked at him differently. For the first time, he saw recognition instead of pity. Extra sessions were scheduled for Sam alone. Whenever Ian acted out, he was sedated, and soon he began to fear Sam's writing more than anything else. Their mother visited the facility once and broke down when she saw them, but Ian ignored her completely and refused to even look her way. When Sam reached carefully for her hand, she pulled it away slowly, as if she had already detached from him and cared only for Ian's approval. On the final day, the therapist asked them both about separation surgery. Sam said yes quietly, but Ian screamed, punched walls and head-butted glass until the mirror cracked. They left the facility in restraints, and their mother drove home in silence, speechless and broken. Ian did not speak for 2 full days, and Sam immediately understood that the war had finally begun, because he had found a part of Ian that could be pushed. That same night, their mother cried again and asked why they could not just be normal boys like everyone else. Ian called her pathetic, saying she should have drowned them at birth, while Sam stayed silent, exhausted from another endless battle. The following week, Sam returned to journaling everything carefully, recording Ian's moods, his tactics, his triggers. He observed quietly, studying patterns like a scientist, learning how to exist without Ian's interference. Ian noticed the change quickly, and one night he woke whispering Sam's name into the darkness. Sam ignored him, and the silence made Ian hesitate, because he could already smell the first signs of rebellion. Sam knew Ian would soon try something violent in response. Days later, Ian tried to destroy the journal, and a violent struggle erupted in the small bathroom. Sam refused to let him tear this one apart the way he had destroyed the first. Their mother screamed when she heard the fight through the door, but Sam refused to let her intervene and lied, saying they had only slipped and fallen. Ian was left in disbelief because this new Sam was not the fearful crybaby he once controlled. This Sam fought back without hesitation. The next morning, Sam noticed his arm had gone completely numb and heavy. Ian shrugged, claiming he must have punched the wall in his sleep, but the numbness only grew worse. When the twins were taken to the hospital, the doctor explained it was nerve damage caused by stress and malnutrition. Therapy was prescribed, but Ian refused instantly, laughing as if the diagnosis itself were a cruel joke. Still, the prescriptions were handed to their mother anyway. By the time they turned 16, Ian began hurting himself openly, scratching his skin, biting his arms, and slamming his head against walls. He called the wounds his art, but medically, nothing could be done for him. Dr. Glenn said the boys were only passing through phases, but Sam knew it was something darker. When he showed her his journal, she dismissed its contents as fiction and told him only that his writing was impressive. Her disbelief crushed him because it proved nothing to anyone. In his journal, Sam wrote that Ian had begun threatening to kill only himself, though he said it like a promise to God. He refused food in the name of fasting, praying loudly, and claiming salvation. Sam's nightmares returned worse than ever, filled with whispers, violence, and blood, and he questioned his mind constantly, but never spoke about it to anyone. He endured the terror silently, writing it all down. Their mother barely remembered the years when they were babies. When asked if she thought only one twin should have survived, she shook her head slowly and said, "We shouldn't talk like that." Sam knew the truth anyway, because Ian whispered it every night, not to Sam, but to himself or something else waiting in the dark. The fight for survival. Sam began preparing, not for escape but for reclamation, tracking every pulse, every reaction, every subtle change in their body, until Ian noticed one night and watched silently. When Sam finished writing, Ian asked if he wanted to die too, but Sam answered not yet, and Ian only smiled in return. Later that week, Sam woke to find Ian holding a kitchen knife against his shoulder, whispering about splitting them apart. Sam did not flinch, instead whispering back, "Do it." And Ian only stared, smiled, and set the knife down without another word. For years, Sam had imagined killing Ian, but now he only imagined waking without him. not to escape, but to begin again. Freedom was impossible, yet he could disappear into himself while still wearing their shared skin. The first time Ian dragged Sam down into the basement, he said he wanted to show him something waiting there. Sam should have been cautious, should have noticed Ian's slow, deliberate movements, but he was too tired of suspicion and too weary of expecting the worst. He let Ian lead him down the narrow, creaking stairs without resistance. The basement was unfinished, its concrete floors bare, walls lined with boxes of old books and broken appliances, a single light bulb swaying above. In the corner, a blanket hid something beneath it, and Ian crouched to pull it back with both hands. Despite it being their first time in that basement, Sam expected horror, a hidden body, an animal, maybe even a weapon Ian had found. Instead, it was only a cracked mirror, smudged with fingerprints and dust. "Look," Ian said, "look at us." The reflection unsettled Sam immediately, not because of their joined bodies or the pale exhaustion in their eyes, but because Ian was smiling and Sam was not. It felt as if one of them did not belong at all, and Sam stared until Ian flicked the light switch and drowned them in darkness. In the dark, Ian whispered in a language Sam could not understand, all breath and teeth, a rhythm older than words. He claimed the mirror was special, showing their true selves, not human, not brothers, not separate, not joined, but one long scream shaped into flesh. Sam closed his eyes, but even there, the shattered reflection lingered. Soon, the basement became a ritual. Whenever their parents left, Ian led them downstairs, sometimes for minutes, sometimes hours. He called it the chapel and said they were building a new version of themselves. Ian arranged broken glass in circles, sat in the center, whispered into jars of water and receipts, and drew symbols onto Sam's skin with red markers. He laughed when it itched, while Sam stayed frozen between fear and fascination. The basement followed Sam into his dreams, the mirror appearing even when he had not been near it. Sometimes it reflected only Ian, only himself. But worst of all, it wept thick black tears like oil. Sam woke with wet eyes, unsure if he had truly been crying. Once, Ian forced Sam to lie with him on the dusty blanket, whispering to the mirror for hours as he traced the same symbol again and again, as if he was slowly erasing Sam from the world. Even knowing nightmares plagued Sam, Ian made sure to stay noisy at night, breaking Sam's sleep into fragments, leaving him in flashes of white instead of dreams. But instead of fury, the broken sleep only sharpened Sam's determination to escape the body they shared. Every day, more fractures were revealed. Brushing his teeth, Sam noticed the imbalance. Ian's side was thicker, stronger, while his side looked pale, fragile, unfinished. They were no longer mirrored. They were a failed experiment. The next morning, Sam's arm went numb again, and the medication no longer worked. Ian mocked him, calling him a glitch, corrupted and broken. At the next appointment, the charts were incomplete, tests rescheduled, and, as always, Ian resisted everything. Night brought worse changes. Sam's ribs tightened, muscles withered, his chest softened, and his bones lost structure with each breath. He traced the seam between their bodies, shared lungs rising shallow and panicked. Their disparity were undeniable. He told their mother, and she scheduled another appointment. Ian only observed coldly, noting, "Your nails grow slower. Your colors are fading." Sam's hands cramped with sharp pain and his legs weakened daily. Ian mocked every struggle, suggesting amputation and calling him dead weight. Sam stopped answering, instead recording every insult and threat in silence. His journal carried violent thoughts, hidden fears, and small daily details. When the hospital tests finally came, they confirmed Sam's worst fear. His side was failing, nerves dying, circulation blocked, muscles wasting away. The doctor explained that separation was no longer a choice but a necessity. Ian erupted in rage, smashing plates and screaming, but Sam stayed calm. He knew the decay had begun to touch Ian, eating his strength slowly. A hospital stay confirmed the damage, worse on Ian's side than Sam's. The nerves were destroyed, but more alarming, his brain was now affected. That explained the psychotic patterns, the cruelty, and the dangerous outbursts he showed. For the first time, the staff finally believed Sam's words about Ian. They explained the truth to their mother as Ian finally fell asleep. The moment he drifted off, he was restrained tightly and sedated. Freedom at last. While Ian slept, the head physician explained the danger to Sam and their mother. The separation was urgent, and survival was uncertain for both. Sam faced the hardest question of his life. Do you want to proceed knowing your brother may die? Sam looked outside the window, where the world appeared painfully calm. Birds moved, trees swayed, and the sky was perfectly blue. He thought about the bathtub, the mirror, and the endless nightmares. Then he spoke the words that ended everything. I want to live. The day before surgery, both brothers were moved to a private room at the far end of the hospital wing. The air smelled of ammonia and cotton, sharp and clean. Everything around them was white, from the sheets to the humming lights above. Sam watched Ian lie slumped and silent, still as stone. 12 hours passed without sound or movement from his brother's body. He had not eaten, responded, or acknowledged the doctors entering the room. For a moment, Sam imagined Ian already gone, a soul departed. Then a broken sound escaped Ian's throat, weak like water leaking through a crack. Ian eventually turned his hollow face towards Sam, his eyes red with exhaustion. His body was thin and weak from the weight that had drained him. Sam recognized it at once, the heavy familiarity of two lives bound in suffering. Ian trembled as he tried to hold himself together, then whispered an apology for everything he had done. He begged for another chance, saying he did not want to die, and even promising to be a better person. For the first time, Sam felt a bond he had never truly known. Because despite everything, they were brothers. He pitied Ian deeply, but inside, he knew his decision was already made. The nurses entered quietly and prepared them with sedation and IV lines. Soon, the surgical team arrived and spoke with their mother, explaining the steps of separation, the countless risks, and the long hours that lay ahead. All Sam remembered about the operation was the beginning. It started inside a cold white room that smelled sharply of metal and sanitizer. Machines beeped steadily in the background, and distant voices murmured through masks. As sedation pulled him under, his mind filled with fragments and visions. He saw himself and Ian lying on the table, a blinding light pouring down over them, and then he drifted away into darkness. The new chapter. When Sam woke, the air was heavy and strange. His left side was numb, his vision blurred, and machines beeped beside him. A straw touched his lips, and he realized slowly that he was alive. The surgeon told him the operation had lasted 14 hours. Sam had survived, but Ian was gone. The loss felt distant, yet pressed on every breath. Days later, Sam faced his body alone for the first time. Scars and bruises marked the places Ian once existed. Therapists guided him through posture and motion, but once home, silence filled every space Ian had left. He felt constant phantom sensations, the weight of Ian on his shoulder. The therapist called it phantom twin syndrome. Sam understood pain, but this was different. Part of him wanted Ian gone. Part wanted proof he had never truly been alone. Sam decided to take charge of his life and set new rules. One toothbrush, one side of the bed. He gathered Ian's clothes and gave them away. Weeks later, he went down to the basement and stood before the broken mirror. He saw tired eyes, a crooked shoulder, a thin frame. When he nodded, the reflection of someone joined to him did not nod back, and that was enough. Not long after, an email arrived from Leah Coig, a documentary producer. She asked to speak, no cameras, about his childhood. At first, Sam was skeptical. His early experiences with the press had been cruel, exposing his family to ridicule. He almost declined, but at the last moment, he called her. Leah came with only a notebook and listened while Sam spoke of guilt, rage, and fragments of the horror of living, bound to Ian. Before leaving, she placed a small camera on the table, giving him the choice to speak privately. That night, Sam filmed himself, making coffee, brushing his teeth, showing his scars, and talking to the lens as if to Ian or God. Speaking became its kind of liberation. Days later, Leah returned for the footage. The first article appeared a month later. It was raw and unpolished. Unlike the interviews he had endured as a child, for the first time, the world could read Sam's truth. He feared the reaction, but responses poured in. Strange, kind, and unexpected. One person offered him lifelong therapy. Another asked to touch his scar. Sam read them all carefully, the way his mother once read letters to him as a boy. Among them was one from Jonah, a 26-year-old who had been separated from his sister at age 4. Producers and publishers reached out, but Sam ignored them. He chose to work only with Leah. After months of interviews, the final cut of the documentary arrived in a plain black case. No title, no label. It took Sam 3 days before he found the courage to watch himself speak. The first shot showed his hand holding a coffee cup. His voice followed, steady but broken. Speaking of survival, confusion, and pain. When the video ended, Sam sat in silence for 20 minutes before finally thanking Leah for sharing his story. A week later, the film streamed worldwide. Despite the attention it received, Sam refused every interview. More messages came in. Survivors of abuse, parents, strangers who understood. Not long after, Sam picked up his journal again. He wrote everything he remembered, everything he felt. In doing so, he finally gathered the courage to visit Ian's grave. Standing before the stone, he spoke the words he had carried for years. Ian had been part of him. He would never regain it, but he could live without it. The next morning, Sam wrote his final entry. Then he published it under the title Split. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.